In previous tutorials, we incorporated a Google map into a mobile application, and we gave it specific longitude and latitude details about what to display on our map. This time we're going to incorporate location data into our application. So we're going to be using data coming off of the GPS sensor that's in the device. And then from that, we'll be able to position the map exactly where the user is. So first of all, how does it find you? How does it know where you are located? You can determine where a device is 3 different ways. One is the GPS receiver, and most mobile devices today have a GPS receiver. And it can find out where you are by using satellites. The same GPS that's available in separate GPS devices as well as the ones that are built into cars. It requires a clear sky, and so as a result, GPS doesn't always work indoors, it doesn't work in tunnels, and sometimes even under dense trees. Another way is to use cell tower triangulation, and this is when a mobile device is switched on, it's constantly in contact with the base stations that surround it. And by knowing the identity of the cell phone towers, it can correlate a physical location through the use of databases containing the cell towers' identities. And so this can work without satellites. It's not as precise as GPS because it depends on where you are and the number of cell phone towers located around you. And the third method of finding a device is Wi-Fi triangulation. And the device connects to a Wi-Fi network, and it checks the service provider against databases to determine the location serviced by that provider. And this is the least accurate. So in ours, we're going to be using GPS since that is the most accurate. Now what I have here is in my application, I have a brand new app created, and the only thing that I've done so far is in my main XML, I have added my map view. And so I haven't added any other code or made any other changes in my file. So if you're following along, you can create a new app and you can add your map. So in order to use this map, I have to change from extends activity. We're going to extend this to the map activity. And when we do this, we need to import the map activity. And we also have unimplemented methods. So if you remember from the previous tutorial, we add the unimplemented methods, which includes the isRouteDisplayed method. And that defaults to false. Okay, next I'm going to get a reference to the map view, and I'm also going to put in the built-in zoom controls so that we have those available as we go through developing. And so I need to import in my map view. Okay, so this is going to go out to my XML file and recognize map view, and then we're assigning that to my map. So from that point forward, when we want to refer to that, we'll be using my map. And so this is what we use to add in the built-in zoom controls. Next, we have to set up the manifest file with the proper permissions. So I'm going to open up my manifest file, and I'm going to go to the permissions tab, and we're going to click add and use as permission, and then we're going to search for the different permission options that we want to include. Now we're going to include the access find location, and this gives us access to the GPS or network towers for our location. Course location is only based off of a network and not GPS. So we're going to choose the access find location, and we're also going to add in internet permission. Okay, I'm just going to check the XML and see that it did add in both of our permissions, and I'm going to make sure I save that. And then I can close my manifest file and go back to my main Java file. So we have a reference to our map view, But in order to be able to manipulate the map or control it, we need to add a map controller. So this allows us to create a controller class, and that will allow us to be able to manipulate our map. So I need to import the map controller, and this should be my map, because we want this map view to be controlled by our map controller. In order to get location information, we need to create a new instance of the location manager. The location manager class can get periodic updates of our device's location. And I need to import the location manager, so I'll add that, and also need to import context. And I need to cast to location manager. So we have our map and we have our location manager, and now we need something to listen for when an event occurs. To determine if there's movement of the device, we need to implement a location listener. And so this is going to be called anytime there's an update to the GPS. So this is location listener, and we'll call this listener. And I'm going to right away add this to import it in. And this is going to be equal to a new location listener. And I'm going to come in and add the unimplemented methods. And you can see that it's added all of these methods in here. So these are all of the available override methods. And the one that we'll be using in here is going to be on location changed. We wanted to check to see if the location has changed, and then in here is where we'll add our code for what to do when that event occurs. And I have an error here, I think. Yeah, I need a semicolon here to close that line. Okay. All right, before I go any further, I want to make sure I spell this the way I plan to use it. Otherwise, I'll have some errors other places. Okay, now we see that on location changed is where we want to put our code to what should happen when the GPS recognizes that there's a change in location. So on location changed is called automatically when the device senses a change in location. So when that happens, we want our map to update to the new location. So to do that, we're going to use the map controller to set the position of our map. So I'm going to start with control, right? This is where we're controlling the map with, so we called it controller. And we're going to say set center, and you can see here it's looking for set center, and it's looking for a geo point. But we don't have a geo point. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a location object, and I'm just going to call this location object location. So this location object contains the latitude and longitude information. So we can extract that information and create a new geo point from that data. So how we can go about doing that is in here, we're going to say new geo point. So I need to set controller to final, right? We can't refer to a non-final variable inside an inner class. So I'm going to change this to final, and we're going to continue with the geo point. Now, as we said, we can extract the latitude and longitude information from the location information. So to do that, we'll say location get latitude, and then we'll repeat that for the longitude. Say location get longitude. I have too many too many parentheses there. So this parenthesis doesn't belong in there. Okay, so that works better. Okay, and now I can import in the geo point. And once I do that, now I have another error in here. And this is pointing out the fact that the location object is providing double values, and we need to use int values. So we can just cast this to be ints by saying int location get latitude and int location get longitude. So that will center the point of the map to the new location. Now we have to register to get the location updates. So we created a location manager before, and so now we're going to use that in order to find when the device has moved. So we're going to use the manager that we created, and I'm going to request location updates. And we're going to use this second one with the string provider. Now the providers are available through part of the location manager class. So we're going to say location manager, and the type of provider, and this shows you a list, we want the GPS provider. Now the minimum time is how often you want to update. So the number of seconds, the more updates you have, the more it's going to drain the battery. So you want to be conscious of this in that you don't use up all the battery power of the device. So for our purposes, just for demonstration, we're just going to set this to 0. Minimum distance is how far your device has moved before it updates. And again, if you do it every 3 feet or something like that, that's going to also drain on the battery. So you want to be cautious of how closely related you want these changes to be updated. But again, for our example, we're just going to do 0. And then listener is referring to the listener that we created. So up here, spelled it wrong. Now it recognizes the listener that we created. So this registers so that we can receive updates when the position of our device has changed. So now we're ready to test this. So I'm going to run this in my emulator. Okay, so not quite what I had expected, so let me close this and let's go back in and see what the logcat says. So we have unable to resolve superclass, uncaught exception, unable to instantiate activity Google Maps. So it looks like it can't find something with Google Maps. So I think I'm going to go back into the manifest file, and I forgot to add to use the Google Android Maps library. So that goes in our application because our application is going to be using the Google Maps. So now if I save this and I'm going to try running it again. Alright, so now it works. But this is what we had before. We just have the default map. One of the issues with working with an emulator is that there's no GPS in our emulator. But luckily, in Eclipse, we can set something up so that we can feed it some information. So what I'm going to do is back in Eclipse, I'm going to go to Window and Show View and Other. Under the Android listing, you can open up and see Emulator Control. And we'll click OK, and that will open up somewhere on your screen. If it's not in a position where you can access it, you can drag it around to one of the panels. But you can see from this that this gives us some options of dealing with our emulator. We can even emulate phone calls coming in and text messages and things like that. But for right now, we're just concerned with sending it some GPS information. Now, I've already gone in and gotten the longitude and latitude of a location. So from here, I can send. Now, it looks like here, this is all blocked out, like I can't change the longitude and latitude information. I can't send. So I can't type in anything in here. So if this happens, what you want to do is go into your DDMS, and you want to make sure that your emulator is selected, and then go back to your Java file, and then we have the emulator controls with where we can change the data. So now if I hit send and switch back to my emulator, you can see that it did change positions to a new location. So if you really want to have some fun, and if you have a device, you can install this on your device and test it. And if you zoom in to a closer view, you'll be able to actually have it follow you around just like a regular GPS device would. So you'd be able to see your path as you travel.